All right, well, welcome back to our Bee Agriculture Career Panel or Career Conversations. We're excited to have you here. If you've checked out one of the other 9 career panels, we hope that you have found something on how you can be agriculture. And that's what we're looking at today, how you can be agriculture with some interests that you might have in a scientific aspect of agriculture, that research aspect. Maybe you enjoy participating in science-based clubs at your school, conducting research for science fairs, or competing in problem-solving conversations. Today, we're going to meet with 3 industry professionals that have figured out how to use their interests of science and research and put that as a career in agriculture. So with that, welcome. I am Katie Eisenberger with Michigan Farm Bureau. I will have our panelists introduce themselves in just a second. But for those that are joining us as attendees, just a reminder, your mute and your video is off, but you can engage with our panel industry professionals by sending me any of your questions, and we'll get those in within about the half hour that we're going to be together today. So to kick it off, I'm going to start with Mark. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself to our attendees, kind of share your title, the company that you are currently with, and one reason why you enjoy this bee scientific area of agriculture.
Okay, thanks, Katie. I'm Mark Seaman. I'm the research director with the Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee, and that is the soybean checkoff in the state of Michigan. So we work with farmers to help them be more profitable and more environmentally friendly, and to add value to their soybean crop. I'm really excited about this position because it gives me an opportunity to help farmers and really, in my position as research director, help them with growing a successful crop.
Awesome. Well, I'm Loren King. I serve as digital media lead for Intent. We're a commercial agriculture research firm. We have farms that we work with all around the country and even in parts of the world, so in Canada and Argentina as well. As part of our work, we basically get to test really cool products on a commercial scale, which means that we're helping farmers figure out what's actually going to work on their farms. And that's probably my favorite part of the position, is that we get to see innovation in action and see what's really going to shape the future of agriculture.
Great, thanks. And thanks for the opportunity, Katie, to be on this panel. My name is Todd Forbush. I'm with Techmark Incorporated. I'm an engineer here, and got my bachelor's and master's in biological and agricultural engineering at Michigan State. And now I'm applying that in trying to help out farmers be more productive with their storage of fruits and vegetables. We do that here in North America and throughout the world.
Well, thank you all for taking time to be with us today and sharing your passions, your interests. And I'm just going to dive right into, what do you do? So if I'm a panelist and you have to tell, you told me your titles, but kind of give me 2 or 3 tasks that you might do either daily or seasonally. But what does it really look like when we say, this is my job and this is what I get to do?
Yeah, Katie, I can give you a few examples of things that I do, maybe not daily, but on an annual basis. So our program funds production research. So a lot of that is MSU, or Michigan State University, researchers that give proposals to the Soybean Promotion Committee to investigate certain production issues. So those could involve things like fertility, so fertilizer use or other fertilizer sources. It could be things like weed control or breeding of soybeans to improve production. So we do that on an annual basis in an amount of a little over $500,000. We also have a large program of on-farm research. So in this case, we work with farmers across the state and use their equipment, but we do the part that kind of coordinates that. So we help them figure out how to use their fields and then plant in a certain way that will make the data from those trials reliable and useful, not only to them to figure out how to grow a soybean crop in the future, but then share that with other farmers across the state to say, here's what someone did, or here's an average of 10 farmers that did this practice, and this may be what you would expect if you tried something similar. And then we use all of this information and try to share that with growers to help them know what's available, what's accessible, what are some new markets out there that soybeans could be used for. There's lots of two main things that come out of soybeans are soybean oil and soybean meal. Lots of uses for both of those things. And we always are looking for new things that we can use those for, because we're really good at producing soybeans, the commodity crop in this country, but we need to continue to look for ways to use those because our production continues to increase.
Awesome. And I've got three different points that I'm going to break down: one daily, a weekly, and then seasonally as well. So my position as digital media lead is more focused on the back end of research. So after we've done the studies, we've gotten the data back from the farm and we've put it all together. What I'll do is I'll take that information and put it in a form that is digestible and accessible for both the client and for the farmer themselves. So an example, every day I'll make either an infographic or a social media template or a video, something to convey information that we've learned. For instance, out of all our farms, what was the average yield increase from a product that our client used? Or amongst all the farmers that we work with, what focus areas would they like to talk about and what would they like us to focus on next? And the advantage to this is we're able to clear away all the stuff that doesn't matter and really provide information that does. And so part of my work is really making sure that we're prioritizing the essential information and making it usable by everybody. And that's daily. On a weekly basis, I'm working with different clients. So an advantage that we have is we get to test in a lot of different areas, but we also need to make sure that we're keeping up with each of our clients individually. So I'll work with them. For instance, this week we have a call with one client who wants photography of roots, and we'll go over the protocol to do that. The next one might be a client who wants some graphics that display details about their product and how they could share those on social media. And so I'm always balancing those, and at least once a week I'm connecting with one of our clients. And then on a seasonal basis, I actually get to go out into the field and do some sampling myself. So it depends on the trial that we're running, but coming up here, provided everything works out well, we'll eventually start doing samples in different states like Illinois and Kansas. And I'll get to go out to the field and collect the samples, record them, photograph them, and send them off to the lab for even further analysis. And hopefully interact with the farmer. Right now it's by text or by phone call, but we're making sure to stay in contact so that they actually know what we're doing, what the goal is, and then later we'll follow up and share what we learned about their field.
Well, that's really cool, guys. Yeah, at Techmark, one of the things we do is work with producers of chipping potatoes, and that's something that I do a lot of. So one of the facts that people might not know is that Michigan is the largest producer of potatoes that end up in a potato chip bag in North America. One of 4 bags of potato chips are the potatoes that have been produced here in the state of Michigan. So what does that involve? Well, first of all, you store potatoes in large buildings. So every year we go out, talk to customers about what their needs are, and then we start the design process. We see how large those buildings should be, look at the ventilation system, the refrigeration system, the control system, and how all of those are going to be integrated together into the data management system that's a cloud-based system that we also develop. So we're putting those systems together, bring that information together in the cloud, and then taking that information back out to the growers. That cloud-based system gets information from our process controllers that are out in the storage and also from a series of laboratories that we have around North America and throughout the world. That data ends up coming back in together with the information from the storage to help those growers understand how their crop's respiration is impacting the quality of potato chips that that's going to make. So it's kind of an interesting kind of niche market that we work in, but we do that work to try and help farmers get every potato that produce into the high quality stream so they can increase their profitability. And really the most important part of sustainability in agriculture is maintain profit points so that you can make wise decisions when it comes to the environment. And so our job is continually to try and focus that product up into the top tier quality and get the best return for the growers.
Awesome. All of those are so fascinating, like very different sectors, but yet, some similarities and just some really cool things that you guys are doing out there. I'm curious on like what kind of training or education or background would somebody need to either have your particular job or if there's other kinds of jobs that you work with, careers that you work with, what kind of background or education or training would would get you to that point?
Yeah, in my case, Katie, I think it would just be a really good, strong base in plant science. So as we're looking at production research of soybeans, it's trying to figure out what conditions did that soybean really like and how could it be the most productive to yield the most soybeans in an environmentally friendly way. So just having a good base of science knowledge, and sometimes that means that we can get that from high school. Sometimes it's more of an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. And in some cases, it may even be a master's or PhD that would be required to go to higher levels to figure out more complicated issues with production, but lots of different opportunities among that. So if we think about opportunities that are at that base level of production, there are some things that are needed that somebody could get away with just a good base knowledge of plant growth, being in the field coming out of high school, helping a farmer or helping a soybean processor with production issues, all the way up to doing really specific research that may happen at a university or a major company to figure out new products or practices.
As for my background, it's a little bit different for my position because up until recently, the company would have been classified as a startup. So we didn't necessarily have a set requirement for what a position might look like and an educational background. But from what I'm bringing in, an agricultural education degree with a non-formal focus from MSU, that would be my main part. And that's what allows me to really understand not only what knowledge we need to share, but also the most effective medium to do it, be it visually, audio. We've done music randomly enough, just experimented here and there about what's going to impact people the most. But I coupled that with a strong background in research, at least going through high school and college. So I was involved in agri-science research as an FFA member for 5 years, 4 to 5 years at least. And that really helped set me up for this position because I could understand the language that we were using and the purpose behind the protocols that and the value in determining on a large scale the impact of a product. I also did undergraduate research at Michigan State that was more focused on communication and learning what's needed and how it can be shared. And so those really benefited me as I came into this position because we were really writing the rules as we were building the plane, basically. So we were building the plane as we jumped out. And because of that, I had a flexibility and a large base of knowledge that could be used. And then I could always ask for help from, say, our agronomist team or anybody on the technology side if there was something that was beyond my experience.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess educationally, for what I do specifically, I'm an engineer. That's the way I was trained. Learned things at Michigan State that in the engineering school that I wouldn't have learned any other way. So I owe a lot to Michigan State University. We also work from an area, we're electrical contractor, we're mechanical contractor. So we have guys that are working with 2-year degrees, folks that just come out of school. You have to go through licensure for both of those contracting positions. So those technicians have to go through and get their licenses. But we employ folks, from high school education right on up to master's level in different programs. Those laboratory programs that I discussed, we employ a lot of part-time people in processing potatoes. I mean, they're down underneath me today frying potato chips. Okay, and when I say underneath me, I just sit in an upstairs office that's directly over top of our laboratory. So we've got folks down there that are frying potato chips to try and see what new varieties will actually make the best potato chip. And that's work we do in conjunction with Michigan State University and to bring their Dr. Dave Dowd. So really, as Loren and Mike shared, just a diversity of education can be used.
If we kind of talked, so that was about training and education. What are some interests or activities that students might participate in that kind of sets them up for success along this path? And partnering with maybe those interests are what drew you to this career path as well. But just curious, thinking back and looking at your career path, what drew you to this career? What interests do you have that you feel really fit into this career path, or activities that you participated in? And Mark, we'll start with you.
Okay, thanks, Katie. And so in my example, I was raised on a farm, and so it was pretty natural for me to have an interest. And then I went to Michigan State University and got a bachelor's degree in crop and soil science. Came out of that and went into the crop supply industry, and then into MSU Extension, and now with the checkoff. So it's kind of been just a career of similar positions that would have aided growers in growing a successful crop. So in order to get to that point, I think just a good, healthy interest in being involved with people and working through issues. So we learn in school that we have textbooks and there's science that tells us this is the way things should work out and the way that will happen. But then there's real life that happens throughout the season, and we work with biological things, so that always changes. And there's always things that we don't want to necessarily prove why the textbook was wrong, but I think it's good and healthy to question, did that really work out this way in the situation that I came upon? So I think it's good and healthy to have a good interest in, here's what I know about, whatever, photosynthesis or fertility in plants or whatever, and then figure out, did it really happen that way, or was there something else that happened that may explain why we saw some different reasons? So I think that kind of stuff comes from interaction with people and science. And so there are some groups of scientists that get together sometimes. Some high schools may have groups that have opportunities to interact together, or just social groups that may help you interact with other people and solve problems. I think those are just some of the big issues that'll happen throughout anyone's career, is how to interact with people and how to deal with the real life problems that happen, because they'll happen every day.
Thanks, Mark. I'd build off of that by saying that what I found was most valuable was a healthy interest in questions, and then a willingness to work with other people. I previously mentioned that I did some undergraduate research, and I have to shout out to my professor here, Dr. Aaron McKim, for encouraging me when I had a question for him. So I came to him and said, what do you think about this topic? What would you do in the situation? And because of that question, which was rather random, he recommended that I do research on my own, and then served as a mentor for me and a partner in an area that I had no base for. I would not have been able to do it on my own. And so being able to seek out those partnerships and talk with other people and learn what skills they have that you can't tap into yet, but you might be able to apply in what you want to do, that can really benefit you and help you leapfrog beyond what you might think is possible. I've fallen into that trap before where I thought I had to do it myself. And really the best advantage is to reach out to these institutions that already exist, reach out to the Soybean Checkoff, reach out to MSU, and just ask and say, what are we doing here? And is there any guidance you can provide? Because there's always something that you can't see, but somebody else can.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Really, for me, we're really, kind of a hands-on deal. So anything you can do, and things that I would do, try and wire something up in our barn at home. I grew up on a farm as well, Mark, and the opportunity to go out and try and keep the farm running, different machinery, different electrical components. These were pieces that helped shape who I am. The opportunity to turn a switch and see something happen. Those were things that kind of made me feel like it was a good fit for me. And then there was a day where, in the Byron FFA chapter, Brent Galbavie from Michigan State Ag Engineering came in and said, hey, there's a thing called ag engineering. That's a place where somebody who likes science and who likes engineering and agriculture, that's something you could do. And as soon as Frank said that, I said, that sounds like a good fit for me. So that's why I'm here today too, because I want to make sure if there's one of you out there who says, boy, I like those things. And by the way, I mentioned that biosystems engineering has the most diverse gender population of all engineering curriculums. So we have the most diverse group of folks, both from gender and race, of all engineering, which brings together that people piece that both Mark and Loren discussed. You really need to lean on the diversity of thought that's within your team. And until you get an opportunity to appreciate that diversity of thought, you really can't understand how to solve the problem. And as Loren said, if you can't see the answer from your view, there's going to be someone who can come with a diverse point of view that can see the answer from another angle. So that human interaction, but for me, the tinkering and the mechanical part were important for what I do.
So what I think I hear you saying is all of those group projects that we have to do in high school and college pay off eventually. Is that are we all in agreement?
Yeah, without question.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there's always a couple of tasks or jobs that we don't really look forward to, but we know we have to do. Group assignments sometimes can be that struggle. But in the end, I think, you know, we come out on the other side a little bit better and a little bit stronger. But I would love to talk a little bit about, obviously we can tell your passion and we can see your interest come through in the jobs that you guys have been explaining to us, but there's also those tasks that we have to do so that we can get to the fun things that we love about our jobs. So just curious, like eyes wide open, looking at this bee scientific area, what are some of those tasks, or just maybe one that, you know, you just have to do and it's not your favorite, but you got to check it off so that you get to do those things. Mark, do you have one to share with the group?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I have interest in growing things and being out in the field. And so kind of the opposite of that is being in an office and handling paperwork or doing some tasks that just need to be done. So there's always going to be those examples, Katie, that we just have to do as part of our job. So in my case, those things would be things like paperwork that need to be done, working on finances of projects that need to be kept track of very carefully because of our funding. Also, reporting is another issue that I understand needs to be done because we've got people that contribute to our program that want to see that we're using the money in the best way possible. So I understand the reason that we need to do it and I accept it, but it's not my favorite thing to go to the office and do.
And as for mine, it really falls to time management, and not in a bad way, because learning how to manage projects and know what you should be doing at what time is important, but it conflicts sometimes with the creative process. And so that's a large part of what I do is creating a design or putting together a video or interviewing somebody. And sometimes when you have to put limits on that, it can feel uncomfortable because you feel like you won't have enough time to do what you want. But you'll find that those limits create an opportunity for creativity, which can sometimes lead to an even better outcome. But when you have multiple clients, you have to make sure that you're cognizant of who you're talking to, when, what projects you're working on, and making sure you have enough to invest in everything. And overall, it's a good thing. It's just a constraint, which is something to learn.
Yeah. So, what are some things that I really, dread doing? Not really dread. I don't dread any part of my job. This time of the year, we're just setting up an annual budget. Loren, I can feel a little bit for you. 32 years ago, we started this company, and it was myself and a few fellows. And now there's a pretty good sized crowd of folks, and we got to make sure that when we face uncertainty, that we do it as leaders in a way that is going to be honest, that's going to be transparent, and that also is going to reflect reality. And so there's times where we have to just speak honest truth, and those are times where I love designing potato storages, but there's times where I just have to sit down with folks and talk to them about the realities that are going on in the world around us in the business today, and then how we're going to face those realities as a team to really move forward and overcome obstacles. And we're in one of those times right now, and those are times I think that define character and build us going forward. So we take those times as well as the times where we get to do kind of nuts and bolts designs, which is stuff I love to do, and we do them all, in a way that they'll serve the industry that we are fortunate enough to work with and the folks that we're working alongside.
Well, thank you for sharing some of that insight, because I know that we all love our jobs, but there are pieces that you just got to do. So that's all good to share. We're kind of coming to the end, and I'm just curious for a student that has been listening in today and kind of hearing your career paths and what you do in your career, what would be just one piece of advice that you would give them specific to this career, with the scientific aspect in mind? what would be your piece of advice to share with them as they kind of leave the panel today?
That's a great question, Katie. The thing that comes to my mind is just to be true to what your real interests are. So sometimes there's not going to be the perfect job in the area that you love, but try to find something that has some opportunity in the future that you have a good, healthy interest in. So in my case, it happened to be, working with plants and trying to be productive and working with farmers to help them. So I didn't know when I was in high school or in college that the job that I have now even existed. So it's just having a good idea of what you enjoy doing and do your best at that, and hopefully opportunities will come around.
And to build off of Mark, I'd say that you need to be open to those opportunities because you don't really know beforehand who has research jobs and who's hiring. I got my job by meeting a speaker at a conference for AFA, which is Agriculture Future of America. And he randomly was looking for somebody to do digital media. He decided about 15 minutes before the conference happened that he was going to hire somebody. And it came up in conversation with another person there, not even me, that I was able to do that kind of work. And so he came to me and talked about it. And I was a bit thrown off, to be sure. But later, after learning about what would be the opportunities there and the connection to research, I was more open to it because I didn't initially understand what was going on. And if I had just said, nope, I'm not looking for anything. And actually, as a student at that point, I wasn't even ready for a full-time job. But if I had said, I'm not really looking for a job right now, I could have lost what turned into a career after graduation because they were able to start me part-time and expand that gradually until after I graduated in December, it was full-time and actually expanded beyond what I even knew was possible. So those hidden opportunities, don't take them at face value.
Oh, great advice from both of you. And really, when you look at it, if you want to take one thing out of all of that I hear the common thread, one I totally agree with, that is show up every day. I know it's cliche, but go looking for an opportunity. Opportunities aren't going to come looking for you. Go looking for an opportunity. Look for an area that you have passion in. When I entered Michigan State University, I figured I was going to be working for one of the big three machinery producers. Okay, I thought I was going to be working for John Deere, for Case International, or for Ford or New Holland. Okay, that's what I figured I was going to do. Now I'm working in the potato industry. Never would have dreamed that those paths would have headed that direction. But through work study, needed a job, had a researcher at Michigan State take me under his wing, and rather than saying no, I'm going to go do this, like you both mentioned, just kind of look at the opportunities that are in front of you, and don't close doors. Keep doors open, and as long as those doors are open, you've got an opportunity to go through them. That's what I would say.
Great. Well, guys, I just really appreciate you sharing advice and giving us a little insight into the careers that you guys get to go to every single day, and just sharing your passion with our attendees here on how they could potentially be agriculture with their scientific interests, and also just being open to whatever may come their way that turns into a really cool opportunity. So appreciate you all doing this today for us. For those that are in attendance, we hope that you can check out the rest of our series, the Be Agriculture series. And if something kind of sparked your interest today, feel free to check down below on our YouTube description. We have some links there that you can connect to get to know a little bit more about these careers shared here, this career focus, as well as just to be able to be in contact with industry professionals. So thanks so much for joining us today, and we will see you soon at our next Be Agriculture Career Panel. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Todd, Loren, it was a pleasure to work with you.
Yeah, great. You as well. Great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm going to stop.